Welcome to episode 42 of the Friday Fitcast. It is going to be truly an honor and a privilege to be talking with this young gentleman, Mr. Swole Meal himself, Mr. Andre Miller. And, I have to say that I've been thinking about this interview for a very long time. And I was hoping to have it maybe back when we first met in 2020. It was interesting how we met. And, I just kind of like to get your take, Andre. I know that you're a family man and you're also a businessman at the same time. And we kind of crossed paths at a very interesting time. So I would just say I want to cover your accomplishments in just a second, but tell us how you found this relationship when you first called. And I remember the call and I remember the email. Tell us a little bit about what you were thinking and what direction you were going as a family man and businessman at that point back in 2020 in October.
Honestly, it was an interesting time because we were like in the thick of COVID. There was a lot of stuff going on, and we had just gotten done doing another show with John Sherman, and I was at a gym training, and one of your competitors met me at the gym and told me about this big show that was going on in Houston the following weekend. And so I immediately inquired and spoke with you over the phone and got set up and, got everything, my registration all taken care of. And actually that was one of the first events that Dawn actually came with me also, my nurse practitioner. So she was there also with her daughter. And we started out with a 6-foot table and a makeshift banner on the front of it. And, had some shirts and some hats and, just some literature and information, just a really, really small little setup. And I remember seeing all of the other people's booths and things and was, taking pointers and taking notes on what I wanted to look like. And my plan was a 5-year plan, not a next year plan things. And I was, taking pointers and taking notes on what I wanted to look like. Okay? And my plan was a 5-year plan, not a.
Ooh, mama.
We got some back feed there. Anyway. But yeah, no, I mean, it was, I had no idea, exactly, so the whole purpose behind us reaching out to the bodybuilding community next year.
Sorry, buddy. Go ahead.
No, the whole reason, we started reaching out to the bodybuilding community was not only for the athletes that needed attention, because there was a lot of incidences already beginning. We started seeing a lot of deaths within the bodybuilding community. And we wanted to make sure that we were giving them an opportunity or a cost-effective place to at least get their labs done and have somebody review, have a professional review their labs to make sure that they were keeping themselves safe and healthy, right? The second was the fans of that competitor, because the fans of that competitor are watching and they're like, how do I get there? What do I got to do? What do we need to do? And so when you're, dealing with, some of the, I would say, above 35 crowd, our bodies just don't work the way they used, the way they used to. Our whole goal, getting started was really just about how I came into it. I was, 27 years old, got tested, found out my testosterone was like at a 227 or something, super low. And at that time, they didn't offer any other kind of treatment other than androgel. It was in the, I guess like, oh gosh, the late 2000. I don't even remember the exact date, but it was a while back ago. And so I started the androgel, didn't do any good. I pretty much wrote it off because I didn't think I was going to be able to find the treatment that I needed, and just kind of dismissed it because I didn't ever feel any benefits from it. Fast forward 10 more years, I'm 38 years old. I walk into the doctor's office and he says, you're borderline high blood pressure, you're borderline diabetic, and you need to start doing something with your life if you want to live any longer. Oh, I went in there because I was a smoker and I had bronchitis. And he said, well, you better just plan on having bronchitis, every couple of years, or figure out how to quit. And so my next visit was to a local gym to buy a membership at the gym, And so I started training at the gym, got into it really heavily, found out that I didn't want to smoke anymore because I was winded all the time whenever I would smoke. Long story short, the trainer I was working with, we were having some difficulty putting on, holding on to muscle, putting on muscle, cutting fat, things of that nature. I took it upon myself to say, oh crap, a number of years ago I tested and I was really low. So I go back and get tested again, find out that my testosterone is 119, which is just very short of a female competitor. I was ready for a skirt. And so I share that with every person I talk to. I say, if we look at labs and they're like, hey, I don't feel right, well, I'm like, yeah, you shouldn't, and I joke and say, what color heels do you want to wear? And so that was kind of the segue into me getting into this social media thing and starting to reach out to folks on different social media platforms, because once I started feeling good, like, I wasn't going to shut up. I was going to let the whole world know about this whole testosterone replacement therapy thing. And it wasn't all about the gains. It was about, feeling good, having energy, having more clarity, being more focused, more driven. I never understood why my peers had so much more drive than I did when I was younger. And this is something that I've had to battle with since I was, in my teens. And so once I get my hormones balanced and get everything going, things just start falling into place. My brain's working. It starts going into overdrive, and I'm, got all these plans. And so I start working in these social media groups and start developing rapport within the community. One group, I won't mention the name of the group because I don't want them to get any more publicity, had a hard time with me because I started to gain a lot of popularity within the group because I always answered questions. I was available at almost any time of the night. And I was pointing people in the right direction to get the help they needed. At the time, I didn't know that I was going to start a TRT clinic. I was just looking at how I could help. At the time, literally, was how can I get my meds taken care of for me, and then can I make some extra money on the side? Because I was looking for a side gig to make additional money because I didn't like the industry that I was working in. I was in the automotive industry. Great people that I worked with. I just was tired of that industry. And I love helping people. Helping people has always been my drive.
That was my next question, though. I mean, you go from a guy who's in the automotive industry, and here's what I wanted to backtrack about, because I think you're leading into this. And
yeah,
I love not scripting these conversations because I'm learning something that I didn't know about you, and we've known each other now for almost 2 years.
Yep.
And not only have we known each other, I've seen you at different bodybuilding shows. I've seen you at Ed and Betty's show in Phoenix, right? Yep. We were talking in Scottsdale when you had that booth there that was front and center on that show, and there were hundreds of competitors. There were thousands of people. When I met you, you had a 6-foot tablecloth, right? We talked the week before my show, and frankly, I was like, dude, how do I get Frontline Alternative? And I go back and review that show because it was live streamed in 37 different states, in 7 different countries, and Frontline Alternative made it, right? And I didn't know the value of the relationship that you and I were going to have 2 years ago. And I've seen you go from a guy who started from an idea into a business now where you're working with the top athletes in the world. I'm not going to mention any names. You can mention those if you choose to, or keep it private. You see your Instagram, you see your Facebook, and you see not only that you're extremely successful in a short period of time, you've all done this with the support of your family. And I think that's the point that most people don't know about you. So, by the way, I might have a little picture of maybe you and your family.
Oh, yeah, there she is.
Tell me when this was taken.
This was taken at a photo shoot right when we opened our office. And we're actually outgrown that office and having to move out of it in less than a year and a few months.
Wow. So what year?
That was in 2020.
So and by the way, we didn't script this either. I just happened to pull this picture that I was kind of stalking Andre's Facebook. And I'm like, man, that is a really cool picture of that.
Yeah, it was, caught us in the moment. It was funny because we were building our website and I needed some headshots for my employees. And so I brought in a photographer that does, great, what they call it, lifestyle work, his name is Bravo. His last name is Bravo anyway. Huh? No, anyway. But yes, so he came in, did my whole staff. It was great. And it was a good, it was like that point where we were coming along. We hadn't really arrived, but we were wanting to make sure that we, made an impression on people that this was a family deal, and that we treated our staff just like we treat our family, except for in certain relationships. Sometimes you don't want to be called family in some relationships because that's a different way of doing business. But for us, the big thing was, just capturing that moment and realizing where we were at. And there was just a lot going on. I just started developing a really strong relationship with Chef Rush. And he's a mentor, not one of our one of our athletes or anything like that. He latched. I mean, I latched onto him and wouldn't let him go. It's funny because that whole beginning of COVID, I spent a lot of time, working with him over the phone, just picking his brain about ideas and what's the best way to this marketing. So he was coming up the same time I was. He just kind of blew up because he's in a bigger arena. And plus, he's got 24-inch arms, and presidents of the chef to the presidents of the White House. So, but yeah, that's been really cool. Other than that, like the whole thing about my family. So when I started with the social media thing, everybody was obsessed with the idea that I was out of my mind because I was on Facebook and Instagram like 24/7 because I had this overwhelming drive to help people. I didn't want another person to go and feel like I did for 10 whole years where they could have felt better right then and there. Or within a few months of making some adjustments and getting the protocol right. So that was like the point where my wife, I'll say, she supported me from day one, not a single question. Even when it came down to, hey honey, you want to sell our house and start up a clinic?
Did you say sell your house?
And you want to go back and move in with my mom so that we can live there until we can buy another house?
That was probably a resounding no, or was that a yes?
She trusts me, so she's like, I'm all in. Let's do it. Wow. Because the goal was to get her out of working in the nursing home, in the nursing industry, and to have her be a full-time mom and also a full-time wife and all of those things, which she that was what she wanted to do because she didn't really get to be a mother to her first son. She wasn't able to be there every waking moment. So it's important to us to do all these things together because I think we all have separation anxiety when one of us is away, just because we've gotten so used to the travel together, the visiting the clients and all of that. My son would even get really upset if we went to go see a client. He didn't get to take a picture with them because he was like, I got to meet all these people. If you're shaking hands with them, I need to shake hands with them. If you're hugging them, I need to hug them too.
There was a picture that I saw on it might have been on your Instagram or your Facebook, where your son was walking across the street with, I don't know who it was because they had their back to us, but I know he was an IFBB pro. And he was holding his hand across the street. And that to me just kind of melted my heart.
It did me too. So like in the moment, like I was like, oh, that's so cool. And I was walking, I was like, why don't I have a picture of this? And it was Chef Rush. And you said IFBB pro, so he's got to get his card.
Well, this leads me to my next question. I know you work with some of the top bodybuilders. I also know that you work in general health and wellness. So for the audience that maybe isn't in the bodybuilding or fitness industry, how have you helped enrich their lives? Because I know you don't come from a competitor's background. You're not competing on the top level IFBB pro stage, even though you could, right?
Yeah,
if you really wanted to.
Oh, yeah.
But you actually have a lot of clientele that are the everyday guys that are going to work that found the same issues maybe that you were dealing with and battling with. Tell me how you serve that community.
Well, it started with a slogan, and it's called "Making Morningwood Great Again." So this is the thing, when you get older, stuff stops working like it used to, and I can't say. I always say that my ego ran my libido, and I'll get this across. I'll get guys to get blood work done just by saying that simple phrase. Is my ego was my ego ran my libido until it found out what my numbers were. And then maybe things, and I always tell guys, it's not that it's broken. It's just that sometimes maybe it doesn't work the way you want it to, or when you want it to. So that's where that comes in. So there's that, and then as we age, our muscle starts to waste, and that's the first thing that causes injury as we age is muscle wasting. So if we can hold on to a little bit of muscle, burn some fat, chase our wives around the house, it's a beautiful thing. And the same to the wife. Sometimes the wife, after having a number of kids, doesn't feel the same luster, drive, and desire, and all of that. And we can help bring families back closer together where you have more intimacy. It's not really all about the sex; it's really about the intimacy. It's a totally different drive. I always tell people that when my testosterone was low and my estradiol was high, I had no empathy for my wife. I could say some things to her and never even feel sorry about it, until I started getting my hormones balanced, and then I would start to think about some of the things I said, and I would kind of get emotional about it. Like, I really felt bad that I had said some of the things that I said to her, or was very non-empathetic. I didn't feel anything about it, and so that's one of the things that that also helped bring us closer together. Was then and I started to feel more, there are times, of course, when your estradiol maybe get a little bit out of whack, and you're maybe a little bit more emotional. I say, I always tell guys, if you cry during Paw Patrol, you might want to get blood work done.
I agree. You brought up a couple of points there, and Andre, I think that we miss the point sometimes as men because we're so proud and we feel like we have to hold everything together. And when we know something is off, not necessarily wrong, but just off, everything else kind of goes by the wayside. We're running businesses, or we're doing something to provide for our families. We have a relationship with our spouse. We have kids that we want to be present for, right? And we also want to be present for our spouses at the same time. We're constantly on the go. And frankly, if you're out of whack with your hormones, it doesn't matter how well you think you have everything organized. That's really the root of some of the things that we can do. If we're able to fix that and be healthy and be normal, we can function normally. But I remember, if I can just share my story, I found my levels to be at like in the 140s. Yep. And they ended up dropping to 93, and I had no idea why I couldn't get out of bed in the morning, right? And it basically had an impact on every part, financially, intellectually, and personally, on how I dealt with family, friends, and colleagues. So for the everyday person, where do you typically find your clientele really starts coming to you? Is that typically 35, 40 years old, 45, or does it just vary across the board?
It really varies across the board. We're actually starting to see a lot more younger people, and I think it's more food, environment, stress, maybe a little bit of COVID. I don't know, but we're seeing some guys in their 20s. I'd say between 25, upper 20s. Even some we had a guy come across that was like 19 and never touched anabolics in his life. Maybe had a concussion or something that caused that. We only speculate. But then we look for protocols outside of, we don't want to mess with anybody's fertility. So we're going to look for other options, HCG monotherapy, or, a slew of vitamins, and kind of run those, to see how long, where their levels are in like 6 or 8 months, because we don't want to start somebody off that young, that early on an anabolic, that they're going to be attached to for the rest of their life. And it's not because your body doesn't produce, it's not because your body stops producing anything. His body's not producing anything now, right? So it's just the idea of how do you feel? Can you deal with the way you feel right now? Or, and that's the other thing with fertility is a lot of guys that were struggling to get their wives pregnant were struggling to get their wives pregnant because testosterone was so low. And we're fortunate enough this year to help 13 families have babies.
I wanted to find a word real quick that you mentioned, because I think that this is one of the best words that came about when you said it. What's the difference between anabolic and catabolic? A lot of people associate anabolics with something that might be, misunderstood. And I think when I think about anabolic muscle growth, I think about adding new tissue, like lean muscle tissue, right? Yeah. When I'm not functioning with my diet correctly, when I was competing, I was in a catabolic stage, and the first thing that they wanted to eat was the muscle, right? Yeah. Because that provided the most appetite for my body. So I think being in an anabolic state, or giving anabolics to give the replacement that you naturally had anyway, I had no idea what HRT was or TRT was. And when I was introduced to it, I really appreciated the fact that once my physician, once I got my blood work done, or whoever it was that was looking at my blood to make sure it was safe to use, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. And what? Frankly, I'm not a big, bulky guy, and I never will be, but I felt better. I was healthier. I was actually more productive. So what would you say to someone who might not know exactly where their blood work is? How would you encourage them to figure out, hey, let's get this checked, because we might know something that you can't fix or figure out on your own?
Yeah, honestly, I go through a symptom chart. We have one on our website. We have one on both our Planet TRT site, and then also the Swole Mail site on Instagram. Run through the symptom chart, and if you see that you've got, you know, I would say between 3 and 5 out of the 10, at least get your blood work get blood work done, find out where you're at, see if there's anything else going on. You know, of course, you know, we want to check, you know, everything to make sure that we're not, you know, hurting. You know, we run a pretty extensive panel to make sure that there's nothing else going on before we get started, you know. And that, you know, Dawn is amazing. Both my nurse practitioners are amazing, but they both really focus on, focus on it. It's not really the number we're treating the patient. You know, how do they feel? Are they, you know, are they on the protocol that they're on? Are they productive? Do they feel like that they're achieving the goals that they want to achieve, not only physically but mentally and even spiritually at times? You know, because when your body's a wreck, you can't get anywhere. I mean, every door feels like it's closed.
Man, there's something, this is a really interesting and sensitive question. So I see a lot of the hearts. What's funny is we're broadcasting right now on Facebook and on YouTube. So I'm able to see kind of what the comments are coming in. And it's really cool to see, you know, a lot of the hearts and the likes and everything.
Yeah.
Especially what you mentioned with COVID being 2020, 2021, and depending on where you're at in the country, or even if you're out of the country, unfortunately, I think depression is hit in a way where people don't understand how to self-diagnose. So if they go to a doctor and say, I don't feel good, and they go to antidepressant medication instead of trying to fix the problem, they're masking the problem. Yep. Have you seen that? And how have they weaned off the medication that their doctor may have prescribed them for anxiety or depression?
Tons. We have a, so I've always had a special place in my heart for veterans and first responders, because they have a very stressful career path. They've got stressful pasts. They went through things that no human being would even know how to deal with. And so they come to us with, you know, on a slew of medications, denied treatment because their numbers weren't low enough from whatever agencies that they were working with. I'm not going to name anybody or slam anybody, but, you know, for whatever reason, this is not a choice that they choose to go down. But we have a program called, at the beginning, it was just our Frontline Heroes program, because I was going to help any veteran that came to me if they were in a financial crisis, and I was going to make sure that they were going to get treated, because I didn't want to see or hear about one more person putting a bullet in their mouth. I always tell people, if all I do with this business is keep one veteran from hurting themselves, I've done my job on this earth. But going back to that, I was that guy on antidepressants and everything, and couldn't figure out why, you know, I couldn't get the right combination of medications to get me to not want to hurt myself, you know, or get me to not want to hurt somebody else, or get me to, you know, be more productive until, you know, I got that balance right. But yes, I mean, you know, I'm sure that there's a ton of guys out there that can list the medications that they're no longer taking because we've got their hormones balanced and they feel good about themselves. They don't want to hurt themselves anymore, and they are present for their wives and their families, you know, and all of that.
You know, there's two quick things. Number one, people don't understand the power of the hormone, right? And the life-saving ability it has when things are in balance. And then the second thing is the longevity. I think that, you know, I see a lot of athletes, and I've had a lot of friends who are professional athletes, and they just burnt out and their knees are shot and they're just creaking to where they can't even play catch with their son. You know, they don't feel like going to dinner. They don't have date night anymore, which deteriorates the, you know, the nuclear family to the point where it's a struggle. So for you, I just want to get your reaction. I want to do something kind of fun. You have a picture here with the Branch Warren, and I would just say the Joey. How's that?
Yeah.
Where was this taken, and where can you say that you really had a big who had a big impact on you being in this industry?
You know, I've been put in, that was actually at the Branch Warren Classic. That was in Houston, Texas. And, you know, in the industry, as far as people, I hate to say this, but I've never been a real big fanboy. So I never really like chased anybody down and said, hey, I love you. You know, I want to kiss the ground you walk on. But, you know, because they're all real people. And I think that's why I'm able to get with so many of them. As far as like some of our, you know, actors and professional athletes, because they don't ever feel like I'm like they're getting run down. You know, I'm just talking to them like you and I, and just, you know, letting them know, you know, what could be different, and let's talk about let's talk about you being safe, and those are real things. And just we build a bond, and they become comfortable. Frank Trigg is one of our best friends, and he's he was all over the MMA, and he's loves my son. We got a deal. We said if anything ever happens to Karen and I, Frank, you're gonna have to take over. You're gonna have to take Xander for us.
Nice.
That and Andre Rush, I mean Chef Rush, he's gonna kill me now. Like he's gonna kill me, like literally hunt me down. He's actually probably gonna fly here and come and get me. But Chef Rush, I would say, as far as like always being real with me, has probably been about as far as you usually pay lots of money to have a mentor like him, and we just become really close friends. And so as far as influential, I would say him, because coming from his background, from where he was raised, where he's at in his career, and really like catapulting himself out into the acting industry and doing things with Disney and all these other things that getting to watch that is freaking amazing. Watching people come from backgrounds where they were always shoved down instead of allowed to be lifted up. He's one of those people that says, screw it, I'm lifting myself and I'm lifting you with me. We have a project that we're working together on. It's called FitSnitch. It's an accountability app, and it uses the geolocation on your phone to snitch on you when you're at McDonald's or Arby's, or so if you're on a plan and your coach has got you on a plan, and they're on this app, if you drive into a fast food restaurant and you're idle there for a certain amount of time, it's going to send a text message to your coach, to your wife, and to whoever else is on your accountability list. And then those people can post that to social media.
Nice.
So if you want to be held accountable, we got an app for you.
So I hope you have that patented trademark copywritten, because if this gets out, everybody's going to try and duplicate it.
It's already been patented. Well, the patent's almost complete, but the trademark's done, and the app will be ready to launch April 15th.
Nice. I want to come back to this picture for a second. When I interviewed Branch Warren, he talked about really what he went through. This is a guy who was a world champion at the Arnold, right?
Yes.
This is a guy who has continually lifted heavy throughout his entire career and never let an excuse get in the way. Like he was telling us about when he tore his quad off the bone, stepping down off of a curb, yet he still continued to compete in the Arnold. Trish was like, yeah, I'm still, you're going to do what? And so it was amazing to me. And I think you and him share a lot of the same similarities in that, because, and I'm going to get off track for a second. I'm going to throw you a curveball. How many miles did you put driving around last year and the year before, traveling to all of these shows?
We've done over 50,000 miles in less than a year.
That's what people put on like in a vehicle and then trade it
in a lifetime.
Oh my gosh.
We've visited 37 states in less than a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, this is going to lead me to my next picture. Where was this?
That was at the Olympia.
So you went to the Olympia. Was that in Florida or Vegas?
In Florida.
Okay. And you saw Labrada, who's a Houstonian as well.
Yes.
And tell me what you've been involved in probably the Labrada Classic, the Branch Warren. I know you're a big NPC and IFBB supporter. What was it like to have conversation with a down-to-earth gentleman like Lee Labrada, and how has that influenced you as far as continuing to do what you do and keep the highest quality and integrity in your business?
That honestly, that one of the biggest things was actually after I met him. It was a post that he made on Instagram, and it was about his relationship with his Heavenly Father. A lot of people have a hard time talking about their relationships with God and whatnot, and he was very open with it, and how being faithful and doing the right thing, doing those things has brought him so much success, and that all of that was glory was given to him, not to Lee. You got to remember how busy the Olympia was. I mean, he was not only, being with Chef. It's like we walk 5 feet, take a picture. Walk 5 feet, take a picture. And I'm taking all these pictures. Walk another 5 feet, take a picture. If you want to go anywhere, you got to walk really fast and put your head down. That's the only way you're going to get anywhere. And even at that, you don't walk through crowds easy with him. So it's just it is what it is. But you know, him and Hunter both, you know, I've got an opportunity to chat with them both a little bit. But I will be showing up at their gym at some point, just because, you know, we're avid supporters. We, you know, if he's at an event and I'm walking by, you know, I'll yell something about Texas and he'll just start kind of giggle in the background, which is funny because, you know, it's Texas boys making some noise is what I say. And so that's the, you know, that whole dynamic with him and his father is just amazing. So, you know, that's, you know, I'm kind of rambling about it because I try to think about all the things that I think about, because of course I got a big mouth. As soon as I meet somebody with any kind of influence, I got to tell them about my Frontline Heroes program, because the only way that you're going to get support for it is if you have the right people in your corner. So we've actually gone from it being just a program to it's actually going to be, we're getting the 501c3 paperwork finished out so that we actually have a nonprofit with donors that are going to help treat these veterans that can't get treatment.
Well, talk about that for a second, because that had to come about with kind of what you've been doing and the work you've been doing to really benefit people and really impact their lives for the better.
Yeah.
Tell me about Frontline Heroes and why that's so important to you and how you plan to move that forward and really get the word out.
Well, I'll be honest with you, because for one, you know, when you're doing it, you know, as a small business, when I started out, I started giving away really soon because I wanted to give back so bad that I didn't care that it was coming out of my pocket directly, and I hadn't arrived yet. I wasn't ready to be a philanthropist, but I also knew that it was important to me to give back to those guys that make the ability for me to operate freely. They're the reason why. So I mean, I want to make sure that they all know that Frontline, you know, loves them and supports them, you know. And if we don't have and unfortunately, you can't treat everybody. You know, we have to do it based on circumstances. And usually, the first thing that we look at is financial. You know, is it creating a financial crisis in their home if they're paying for treatment? Can they afford it? What does their finances look like? So we want to help those guys first. I hate to say that, but that's, you know, unfortunately, that's just the way it is. But we do, you know, want to be able to get to it. But that was the whole point about the foundation, was that if there were guys that felt like, you know, or that were needing treatment and it was maybe not going to put them under a financial crisis, but still be a burden, I still want to be able to help them. It's a hero program, so I want to help the hero also. And sometimes the hero, you know, was an overachiever. You know what I mean? So I don't want to leave out the overachiever. I want to at least give them the option to say no. You know, if they decide that, hey, I want somebody else to get this treatment, take, you know, 15% of my, you know, payment and put it towards your Frontline Heroes program, I'm all about it. So the Frontline Heroes Foundation is what it's called. That it's a 501c3. We're just waiting on our tax papers so that we can start putting more funds towards treating those guys. Then I hate to say that when you're donating at such a, you know, at an early stage in your business, we've never been in the red. And I do push the envelope every day, because I feel like if you're not living on the edge of bankruptcy, you're not moving hard enough. But it
keeps you waking up every morning, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, but I mean, also, you know, if we're going to travel and go do this face-to-face thing, because this grassroots thing is better than any kind of marketing, advertising that I could never pay somebody to do what we're doing. And be as aggressive with what we've done. You know, I always want to be relevant. I always want to be in people's faces. I always want to be there, because I don't want them to say, well, what happened to that guy? He got to a certain point and then he just dropped off the face of the earth and stopped coming out to see people. You know, I love going out to meet our patients. I love to hear the success stories. It's funny because a lot of times I won't even get a chance to get out of my truck and they're knocking on my window. Like, they found me. They're like, I need to take a picture. I want to say hi to you. I want to give you a hug. I want to thank you for everything you've done. And that's probably like the most moving thing. I never thought about the value of the video of that, you know, that first meeting, until I was speaking with Kyle. He's one of the producers, camera guys for Gasp. And he was like, "You're not getting that on video?" And I was like, "No, I just get pictures and give them a shirt and shake hands." And, you know, I kind of didn't want to invade their space like that. He said, you're missing on some very vital footage, especially that first moment, you know? So I think we're going to, you know, maybe we're going to look up, try to get Hilton as a sponsor, and we'll start traveling more. Because traveling with the camper is sketchy.
You think?
Yeah. You saw the video.
Well, I got to tell you, Andre, for those of you who are just joining us, Andre Miller with Frontline Alternative has not only built an incredibly successful business in a short time, now you're at the stage where you're giving back. I love how you said you operate in just enough to where it wakes you up in the morning and keeps you motivated, and you're still the face. I think a lot of people, when they get to a certain scale of business, they tend to fade away in the background and want to enjoy the labors and success of others' work. And you're wanting to do this because you're 100% in it, right? You pushed all your chips in. This is your baby. You want to be the face because you know your business best, and you wouldn't expect somebody to work harder than you to build your dream. And this is your dream.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I will say that we have,
go ahead.
I just touched base on Joey Stacks. Joey Stacks has been freaking phenomenal for us. As far as, he has such a diverse following. And he has done, just putting us even further on the map on a global stage. And then also in areas that maybe we weren't reaching because that wasn't our market. Because he doesn't reach just the lifter or you think, when you think strength cartel, you think of, East LA or that, that demographic, but he's got, lawyers, doctors, all kinds of, you name it. And it's really about his mission and what he's done, which helps, with catapulting us out there also. The reason I say that is because I want to thank him. I can't say that we wouldn't have been where we're at without him, but he has played a monumental role in our growth this year, especially during, a pandemic time.
We have a lot of mutual friends, and I knew that you were at the Sherman that one year, and Wayman, who is one of our competitors, of course, and he just turned pro, and he's been with me for the last 2 shows. And I have to say that when people talk about Andre Miller, they're always talking in high regard. And I think that that's a really tough thing to do, because the more successful you become, your competitors tend to envy and maybe talk a little bit and try and take a jab every now and then when they can. Yeah. I've never heard anybody say a bad thing about you. We've had phone conversations. We've talked live in person. And I think that where you're going with your business is more important than where you've been. And I think that's where you're forward facing, thinking 3 steps ahead. So let's talk about 2022 for Frontline and 2023. You've talked about the heroes and, your 501c3 and the Frontline Heroes Foundation. What are your plans? How do you see this growing into a worldwide phenomenon? As I know this is a fairly new therapeutic. So talk to me about what you're seeing and where the growth is going to come from for you.
For us, it's still the I find that whenever I step away from, I have a group called Planet TRT and HGH Support, and there's about 7,000 members in that group. I stay active in that group, answer questions, respond to private messages and things of that nature. Just, really just to for one, that's where my face was originally. I started that group because I got kicked out of another one. It was basically, the group was created out of necessity. I was in another group, and I was had a lot of, or 2 other groups, and I had a lot of influence in both of those groups. And the people that ran that group found me to be a threat. They didn't want that group to get taken over by Frontline, and that's the direction they set it. They could see it going, and they knew that if they didn't, if I was in there, that there was, because people weren't going to them first, they were coming to me. And so that was how Swole Mail got started. Swole Mail was a message. I would send people a text message or a message on Messenger, and it would basically have a breakdown of what they could look at as far as cost, timing, the websites, the links to go to, and I would send it. And so I would say PM sent. Well, one of the guys that run one of the groups, I won't mention any names, he knows who he is, sent me a message and said, "Hey, I don't need you sending those kinds of messages. I want this to be organic." And I was like, well, how more organic is working going to be than me sending a message just saying, "Hey, I sent you some information. You might want to open it up." Well, he said, "Don't do that." I said, "Okay, well, I don't want to, violate his rules or make him feel like, I was treading on him or whatever." So I would just start saying Swole Mail sent, because maybe Swole came in the mail.
Perfect.
And so that whole thing spun out of control. I started having people send me memes of Arnold Schwarzenegger in a mailman suit, dropping off packages, and and whenever I would say that, I would get like 15 responses. "Send me a Swole Mail. Send me a Swole Mail." And so that was really, it wasn't ever supposed to be a name or an identity for me. It was just really a little catchy thing. that would get a whole thread going, about this swole mail. And so it blew up out of something I did. It was more of me making a jab at him than it was intended to be a catchphrase or something that has become. So that's it's funny. But yeah, that the whole thing has always been about helping people. I mean, there's nothing. I never even. You can ask my staff; they'll be like, "Andre, why do you give away so much? Why do you do so much for so many people?" And I'm like, "It's because karma it all comes back. If somebody's in trouble, especially with COVID, guys would call me and be like, dude, I lost my job. I don't think I can do treatment anymore." I was like, "Don't go without treatment. Do me a favor. Jump in this group. You're going to become an admin. I need you to watch the group, make sure that there's nothing going on so right now you're working for me, so you're getting an employment, a benefit." And it was. If I could have done it for more people, I would, but it was individual basis, based on their circumstances. I've always, been. I would never want to be in that situation where you finally feel amazing, you finally feel like you can do things, and a social system shut us down. We couldn't do anything. I said, you either got to get online. That was my thing. Is Facebook was a 24-hour day business, and I knew that. I didn't have to have at the time, because I was only trying to do marketing, so to speak, or interact with people. I didn't need an office for that. So I could do that from home. I could do that from anywhere in the world if I wanted to, because at the time I wasn't in the mindset of the labors of running a clinic or operating a clinic. So, by the way, I don't run the clinic. My brother and sister-in-law do, Dee Dee and Jason Paul. And honestly, like if I didn't have them, we wouldn't be in the same thing. We wouldn't be in the boat that we're in. And my staff is amazing. I mean, they really. Just all I could. If I start naming all names and I forget somebody, I don't want anybody getting their feelings hurt. So just know, all my staff, I love y'all, and I know that I can leave at anywhere, go anywhere with my phone, without my phone, and that I don't have to do anything. I don't have to worry about anything, because they're going to do things the way I would do them, because I've given them the authority to operate the way I would.
Well, you think about what's going to happen. How many shows are you planning on going to? Are you looking to break that 50,000 mile mark in a year? Is that going to be kind of turning it up, or keeping it kind of where you've been in 2021 and the later part of that?
Well, the thing about the shows. Oh, my battery died on my light. Someone scoot forward.
Oh, mine did too. It's all good. We're still rolling. This is how we do things, man.
So the shows is kind of a thing where we have to be cautious, especially right now with the amount of growth. We're getting to move into a new building, so it's more money. I think it's more money. Don't worry about it. And so. Couple of things. We got some personal things going on. My wife's found out that her mom's got cancer, so we decided that we're going to spend some time with her. So we may not do as many shows because we're going to stay with her for a month or two, just to be there for her. And then so right now I'm a title sponsor for the John Sherman shows, because you talk about influence. He was the no nonsense one. He was the one that he doesn't pull no punches. And if you don't say what you're going to do and do what you say, you better. You're either going to get a call or you're going to get the cold shoulder, and you don't want the cold shoulder for John. John's he's when you talk about like influential people. When I went to him, whenever we did the first show and we had some problems with the person that I was doing business with, he kind of directed me and guided me, and he's been really big on pointing me in the right direction. So I would call him and say, "Hey, John, what shows should I do? What where would you think I'd make the biggest impact?" And he would tell me. And we've gotten whenever I'm working with them, they put me on blast on social media. From bags to tickets, our logo's on everything. I get up on the stage, I'm giving away every trophy for like 3 hours. I'm like, dude, I didn't know that this was what you want me to do. So, but it's great, honestly, you get a close up of what those competitors, really look like, instead of being so far from the stage. But also you get to, experience that there's a certain level of anxiety. I feel their anxiety, like who's going to win, somebody knows who's going to win.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then just the interaction with the crowd, that's I'm a stage guy. I love, interacting with people and, cutting up and things. I've never been the prim and proper type.
You're the real and raw type, and I think that's what people like about you.
Oh, I don't pull my phone. Yeah.
The fact is, with John the Tank Sherman, he's the same way. You know, you're rubbing elbows with some of the best bodybuilders ever to grace the stage. You know, you think about a Johnny Jackson and you training legs with Branch Warren, and they're absolutely destroying you at every level, or shoulders, you're about to fall off, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I did back to back. So the night before I went and worked out with Johnny and Branch, I worked out with Dee Duchesne. She's competing with. She's actually one of. She's gonna kill me because I'm butchering her last name. Because
just say Dee. You're good.
Yeah, Dee. You know who you are, Dee. But she we trained back the night before, and I was like, oh man, I'm gonna do back again. So I went and did back with Johnny and Branch, and yeah, they ran me through the ringer. It was every last set was a drop set. You know, we're talking about like, you know, cramming, you know, 5 plates on a you know, lat pull machine, you know, a bit over rows. That was it. I was like, you're doing drop sets on bit, and they're like, they brought out it was like a 120-pound dumbbell, and I usually do really lightweight, slow movement, and they you know said it's your set, and well, CT would say it's your mother set, and I was like, I don't know, he said, I don't want to hear about it. He says, if you ain't touched it, you don't know if you can lift it or not. And I was able, you know, I grabbed it and I pulled it just like the big boys, you know. I didn't jump off into whatever the next big weight was. I forget what it was, like the 160s or something. But yeah, it was an intense workout. I can say that I've never done something so intense and so, you know, there wasn't any breaks. You're moving. You were hustling through this whole workout, and we're not, you know, there's very little chit chatting going on.
Well, I don't have pictures of that workout. I wish I had a video. We could have shown that.
Actually, I'll have a video of the workout that I did. I did shoulders with Johnny a couple of weeks ago. So hopefully the camera guy is going to send me some footage of that. I'll have it up on my Instagram at some point.
And what's even better is before we start to wind down, I do want to have you tell us, how can we follow Andre Miller? How can we Swole Male Miller? I like that. How can we follow Frontline? How can we get in touch with you? Where do we contact you?
So you know, I, of course, you know, growing my Instagram page, I'm an old guy. So Facebook was my number one go-to, you know. You can reach me on Facebook at Andre Miller. You can reach me at, we have a group on Facebook called Planet TRT and HGH Support. And it's really just a group I always tell guys, if you have questions about the way we take care of our clients, jump on that group. The guys aren't going to lie to you. You'll find out really quick. And then of course I'm in there being active and being present, and you know, my nurse practitioners are in there helping answer questions. You know, we try to make sure that we make a lot of information available for everybody.
I just realized though, I had your banner and I was looking at the ticker on the bottom. I had all of your information here. So I'm not sure why it's there. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So Swole Mail on Instagram, SWOLEMAIL. So Makes You Swole comes in the mail. And then of course we've got our Facebook Frontline Alternative Business Group. And those are really the primary ones. Sometimes you can't find me under Andre Miller. So if you type in Swole Mail on Facebook, you'll find me too.
I had that thing ready to go. I think I'm in an alternative studio because I do all the show production, and I'm really glad that you did that, because a lot of times what happens is when you go watch the replay of this, you'll be able to get every single form of social media and also way to get in touch with Andre, because a lot of times you might not need Andre's service now, but 3 months from now, you're probably wondering how to get in contact with him. And that's one of the reasons why we're on YouTube and Facebook. The replays, you can go watch at any given time. Even if you're driving somewhere, you can listen to the audio, or if you're watching something and you want to be quiet, you can listen to the closed captioning and read that too. So, you know, as we go through, Andre, you know, just kind of some parting thoughts. We've gotten the chance to see you grow a business. We've also gotten the chance to see you grow a family. Just curious, is your family around?
You know, I don't go anywhere without them. You know, I let them know early on. I said, y'all are going to have to get in the shower, get dressed, because we got things to do today. and it may require you being on TV or on social media. So my little boy's been both my little boy and my wife have been monumental supporters, and they're do or die. They ride with me everywhere. They honestly they do 12, 14, 18-hour drives and never complain a bit. My wife's replying to all the messages on social media and DMs, and actually she gets some pretty funny messages that she didn't realize she was going to have to answer about some kind of issues with male performance. A couple of guys I had to say, hey, by the way, my wife is texting you right now.
So she's essentially a counselor and psychiatrist at the same time.
Yes, she is. She is definitely. When you're a nurse, you're used to all those things. So it's something that she always does. But yeah, no, I'll bring him in right now.
Yeah, would love to see him, because this is the family of Frontline Alternatives.
Yes.
So
this is Karen Swolmail Miller on Instagram, and Xander the bestest ever Miller. Turn around and show him back your shirt. There you go. And he's the money.
I love those money signs. And, frankly, when you have people behind you that you're able to spend and invest time with, it's great. And, man, what a heck of a time. I enjoyed it. And frankly, you guys are the ones who are making it happen. And it's not just one person. It takes everybody. And you definitely invested in that. So, yeah, go ahead.
And it goes back to, taking care of people and treating them with respect and dignity and making sure that you're meeting all of their needs. It's really easy to, I will say it's at times that, you want to be the boss, but then you actually got to be a leader, and you got to step away from the grueling part of being that my accountant told me early on, he said, do you want to be an owner or do you want to be a manager? And I said, well, I'm the owner. He said, well, then you got to let people manage.
That's gold right there. If you got anything and you run a business, there you go. You just drop that nugget, man.
Yep.
Well, Andre, any closing thoughts? Would love to hear from you or the family as far as things that you're excited about for 2022, things that are coming up that you're like, man, I can't wait to do this. I'm losing sleep over it. Anything that's on your mind or anything?
Honestly, I'm super, super stoked about the Frontline Heroes Foundation actually coming to fruition and actually getting ready to do some marketing for it. And then also for FitSnitch, because, FitSnitch was one of those things where I was like, well, how am I going to fund all these projects that I got going on because I can't continually be taking from the business to start other ventures. And that's, utilizing McDonald's and Arby's and Taco Bell and, giving them an opportunity to kick us their healthy options, right? So the whole purpose behind the app isn't to run people out of the drive-thru. It's to force those guys to get us some chicken, get us some broccoli, get us some rice. We know those three things is all we need. And the cool thing is that once they start putting that stuff out, our members will be able to rate that their experience at that restaurant with their healthy option. We're in a world where nobody wants, with COVID and all these other, I'm sure, more infectious diseases that we're going to see, but being healthy is going to be the key point of longevity.
Did anybody else's stomach start growling when you start talking about food?
Food, yeah.
Oh,
yep.
So I can't go eat pizza. Is that what you're saying? FitSnitch would tell me to get out of the pizza place?
It would tell you, it would send your wife a notification that you're at Pizza Hut first. Your kids may be okay with it, but your trainer probably isn't going to like it at all.
Understood.
Yeah, that coach. The funny thing is, the coach is. It's funny because it's going to have voiceover with Chef Rush on there, and it's going to give you. He's going to. One of the things he says is like, drop and give me 20, or drop and give me 2,222, or we can make this. We can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way. So there's it's going to be fun. It's not really all about the geolocation or tracking what you're doing. It's just the extra push. Guys like me, we have to have that extra push because, I'll fall off the wagon really quick. If I forget my meal and I'm hungry, I'm stopping somewhere, and I'm not going to make a good choice because I wasn't given the option first. I already knew in my mind what I wanted.
Amen to that.
Yes, sir.
Well, I have to say, I think we might have to have you back, Andre, if you're willing to be another guest, maybe when you do launch FitSnitch. And also would love to continue the conversation about how we can support you for Frontline Heroes Foundation, because, dude, what you're doing, man, if you really want to know successful people, they master their craft. you have built a business and a scalable business, and now you're actually adding on the needs and the things that are actually going to intertwine and integrate. So it's a one-stop shop, man. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you and your family, and so glad that we had this time today.
Yes, but of course, the next, of course, like everybody else is, we want to have a supplement line. I'm working with my nurse practitioner on it, and my backbone back here is, if it wasn't for her always telling me that I was amazing and that I was good at whatever I could put my hands on, it wouldn't be, none of this would be possible, because it's hard to find somebody that will actually go into a risk situation like she did, saying, okay, so we're going to move out of our house.
That's because he is amazing.
I think everybody agrees with that too. And that's one of the reasons why you guys have really poured your heart and souls into that, and you hopefully feel the love back. So,
oh, definitely. I always tell everybody that if we ever stopped traveling, we wouldn't have to worry about referrals, because our patients constantly. We have patients that send us, hundreds of referrals annually, because they love the way they're taken care of. They love the treatment. They love our staff. They love Dawn. They love, just everything that we're about. And, I could probably not travel anymore and just let them send over referrals, and would probably do just fine. But going out and meeting these people and getting that belly to belly, face to face hug, handshake, wherever it is that they feel comfortable with, is vital, because then they don't no longer feel like just a check, Andre just wants me for my money. Well, it's never been about money for me. It's always been about helping people. I knew that the money would come once we did the right thing. We were going to do the right thing, take care of people. The mission is, saving and changing lives one American at a time.
Well, you've grown a pretty big family, Andre. Want to take the time to thank you, your family, and I can't wait to have you back if you're okay being a guest back.
Oh, it, man. We're the underdogs.
I remember that convo very clearly, and yes, I love the fact that we'll continue those. So,
oh, definitely.
Ladies and gentlemen, Andre Miller with Frontline Alternative. Check him out at Swole Mail on Instagram, and we're very much looking forward to having you back, especially with your new business ventures as well as your existing that you have built so successfully. And hope that all of you have a great weekend, a great Friday. If you missed anything, the replay will be up soon on the Friday Fitcast, as well as the Stormtrooper Production, Stormtrooper Events, YouTube, and you'll see that. So look forward to it. Have a great weekend.